Today, I am going to be winding up a actually ridiculous amount of giant yarn. I feel like I'm using this video as motivation to make me do it. It's like accountability. I have to do it if somebody else is watching. So, that's what you're here for. Hopefully. I don't know. You can probably see this is my room. And you'll see some yarn and crochet stuff around. I've got some yarn behind me. But that is not the yarn we're working with. The yarn that we're going to be working with, or binding up rather, it's really big. And I have so much of it that I've been putting this off for months. It is stuffed under my bed. And, yeah, it's like, it's a skeleton in my closet, and I just need to wind it up, and I really don't know if I'm ever going to use it, but I feel like I definitely won't use it if it's just in a giant blob. So more than half of this video will probably just be me untying knots and maybe cutting pieces off. Also, excuse any background noise as my entire family is home. And, I don't know, we're just hanging out. There's a snowstorm outside. So, if you can see that in the window, maybe that'll, I don't know, cozy vibes. So, let's begin. I got this yarn. So, I don't even know where to start. So, whenever I started crocheting, well, I really started with finger knitting or arm knitting. Oh my god, this is getting really bad already. I started with arm knitting a blanket, and it turned out okay. Oh, I found an end. Thank God. It turned out okay. But ultimately, I ended up just not liking the texture. I have this really, as you can see, anyone who knows about yarn, this is pretty bulky. This is about as big as it gets usually. And it's Yarn Bee brand, just because that's what I had in my area. And in retrospect, I don't really like the texture, which is a really tough thing to hear, especially considering how much of it I have. So I don't want it to go to waste. I want to use it for something. The side effect of that is just that I don't like it anymore. I don't like yarn that's this big. But I feel like anyone who kind of gets into yarn or fiber arts now, you kind of start with this like big yarn phase. Oh my god. Okay. And I definitely had a big yarn phase. Did you just see that? That's insane. That's insane. There's more of it. Wait. Okay, so this is the ball we're working with, and I swear to you, it's gonna get way bigger. But yeah, I started with a blanket, like arm knit. And I ended up taking it apart. And I was like, no, I'm going to get a crochet hook. This is when I learned to crochet. And I crocheted a blanket. Ended up hating it. And to be honest with you, parts of it might still be down here. Just not lit. Like, I haven't even taken it apart properly yet. There's so much. I need to bring into frame exactly how much yarn I have. This is crazy. I just want an end. Here, I'm gonna pull it all into frame just so you can see. blanket. Oh, Neptune. It's huge. It's so bulky. I'm not going to use it for anything. I'm not going to use it as a blanket. It's too bulky. I get warm. Too warm. Anyways, I'm going to take it apart. Oh, you probably just saw my cat also. His name is Maestro. And he'll probably walk into frame every once in a while. Well, I can say that is all of it. I really was not kidding when I said I had a lot. So I am going to try to group it all by color. I'll tie the ends together just to I don't know, keep things uniform. I've done this actually once before, not with all of the yarn, but it resulted in a rather large ball of yarn, and I just thought it was kind of cute, actually. So at the end of the day, if I just have 2 or 3 giant balls of yarn, I think that'd be maybe cute as an interior decor. I don't know. First ball. The part of me dies inside now, knowing that I bought this much yarn. It kind of makes me sick. I don't think I have a problem with overconsumption, usually. But this maybe doesn't make it look like that. This probably makes it look like I'm insane. Which, maybe a little. I feel like you can maybe hear those yarn noises just a little bit. My God, it's like a literal blizzard outside. So like I was saying, I really thought I didn't have a problem with overconsumption. But this really puts things into perspective for me. I'm not even joking with you when I tell you I've been putting this off for months. I've had this stash of yarn since before I moved back to my hometown, which is where I'm at now. And I put it in a giant trash bag. And when I was transporting it, my mom was like, "Is this filled with pillows or sheets or something?" I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll talk more about fiber arts. Me asking questions in my head and answering them. Yeah, I'll answer your questions about fiber arts. I feel pretentious when I say fiber arts, but you know what I mean. Yeah, I started really making a giant blanket with this big freaking yarn was what started my interest. Making a hand knit, arm knit blanket. And then I made a couple of finger knit bags, which your first go around usually aren't very good, and they worked. My mom still has one I made for her. She doesn't use it, which, oh my gosh, fair enough, because it's borderline unusable. The holes in it are crazy. And it's made with, guess what? This kind of yarn. this yarn has had a hold on me for a long time. I feel like maybe once I get all of this yarn rolled up, maybe I'll feel like free, like a new person. Like any issues I'm having in my life will suddenly disappear now that the metaphor of all this jungled up ball of yarn under my bed stands for is gone. That's wishful thinking, but I don't know, I can be a little superstitious for fun. The other embarrassing thing about all this yarn is that I just have to, see it. I feel like, okay, so when I moved back in here, and I was like, I'm gonna do something with that yarn, I took it out of the trash bag, aforementioned, and proceeded to do nothing with it. So I stuffed it as far under my bed as I could to try to forget it. But like some sick little reminder, it just kept popping up. It came back. So now I gotta confront it. I've gotta get rid of this yarn. Well, not get rid of it, like I said. In an ideal world, I'll make something with it. Because I just can't. I could not live with myself if I wasted this much yarn. My yarn collection is pretty much completely behind me, with the exception of all of this. And I've been doing my best since, I would say, October or September, to not buy any new yarn. Just to get through all of the stuff I already have. And I've done, it still looks like I have a lot, and I do. But I've done a pretty good job of getting rid of the stuff that I have and using it. I just made a bag out of a yarn that I was like, I'm never going to use this. This yarn, it looks like Christmas. You know what? I'm going to show it to you. I made this little bag, and from this angle, you probably can't tell that it is kind of Christmassy colored. I've had this yarn for so long, and I haven't known what I was going to do with it. And so I just kind of free-handed this bag, and I think it's really cute. I think it's super cute, actually. But one of my friends was like, I love those colors and the pattern it came out to be. So I'm going to send this back to her. And the rest of the yarn that I have that is this colorway. So hopefully she will like it and use it for something, because she likes it. I, on the other hand, have no idea what I would use it for besides just testing a shape like this, which is what I did. So, I'm kind of proud of it. I've been making a lot of bags that are kind of this shape, and I think it's cute. I'm going to give you a closer look. So you might be wondering, well, if you don't like that color of yarn or like the colorway, why did you buy it? Well, the answer is I didn't buy it. So actually, a lot of this yarn that's behind me right now, I didn't buy. And it wasn't gifted to me either. So my grandmother, who passed away several years ago, it's not fresh, so don't worry about it. My grandmother, who passed away several years ago, she used to crochet, and we still have a lot of her stuff that we just, haven't gotten rid of for whatever reason. She used to crochet a lot, and she left behind some yarn that she never used. So I've done my best to use that yarn in just random ways. I haven't been too deep about it. I did use one of the things of yarn to make like a cardigan for my oldest sister. And it felt really special to use some yarn that was my grandmother's. But that is all to say that some of this yarn, or a good portion of that yarn behind me, is yarn that was my grandmother's and that we found this year. And so it's that like Christmassy colored yarn that I used to make a bag. So it's kind of cute in that way. It's really interesting because I only learned to crochet it's probably more than like a year ago. For some reason it feels like it's only been like a year. No, it feels like it's been longer, but either way, I really dove into the hobby. I really can't find an end right now to this. But it's really interesting to have a hobby that I picked up that my grandmother also had, and we never bonded over that. Because, I mean, at the time I was not interested in it. I wouldn't have been. But it's so interesting how you grow and you start finding interests in other things, and fiber art was one of those things. Yeah, it started with this big yarn arm knitting a blanket, and then a couple months later I tried crocheting something, and I actually have that thing, the very first thing I crocheted. It's behind me. It's actually in frame. I don't know why I'm being mysterious about it. Like, I'm like, guess what it is? It's actually, you wouldn't be able to tell how bad it is from this angle. But it is the very first thing I crocheted. I was attempting to make a bandana. Just a little, like, head covering thing. I don't know why I was gonna crochet a bandana, but I mean, stranger things have happened. And in true me fashion, I thought, I'm not gonna follow a pattern. I'm just gonna do a panel, and that'll be the bandana. I was so wrong. I did not know enough about crochet to just crochet a simple square. Legitimately, it's that bad. And yeah, it's that guy back there that's being used as like a baby little tablecloth. It worked as a bandana. It's a little thick to be like tied in the back, but it got the job done. And it was my very first thing I made. I will not be showing you close up because the stitches are horrendous. It's all done. I don't know how I ended up doing this. It's all done in like, I think what I thought was a double crochet at the time, but it was actually a half double crochet. And I was doing it like backwards. Like I was doing the half double crochet backwards. So it was really frustrating to get the yarn through the loops. And my tension's all weird. And it's with a yarn that also really liked to split. So it was very frustrating, and I wasn't following a pattern, so it didn't end up rectangular. And I was like trying to fix it by crocheting more rows like on the sides, and it looks really weird up close. But what I will say about diving headfirst into something without with reckless abandon, what's really nice about that is you give yourself the space to fail. You give yourself the space to experiment with things and try them out and not take it too seriously. So at the end of the day, I'm really happy that I made that really bad bandana, because it was kind of the beginning of me learning to crochet better. Because you can't be good at something if you don't start. Wow, that's so profound. But now, I'm going to do a little bit of soft spoken, but now I crochet all the time. Even if I'm not doing a specific project, or I'm just working on something kind of to keep my hands busy, I'm crocheting usually. I haven't yet gotten into knitting. I have a feeling that I will eventually, but I'm just not there yet. Every time I've tried, I get frustrated, because I can crochet pretty fast. Not super fast, but pretty fast. I've been crocheting for a while. I legitimately can't remember when I started crocheting, though, to be honest. It couldn't have been just a year ago, because it feels like it's been way longer, but it might have been a year ago. When I say I dove into this hobby, I dove. We're running into an issue with some type of knot. This is ridiculous. This is really ridiculous. And to make it all worse, it's all shades of white, beige, and gray. That's so boring. But I was trying to be tasteful. This is probably making it worse. Let's start with this smaller piece. Now what on earth is this? Some other time, maybe I'll show you some other crochet projects I've made. I certainly have plenty, and it's to the point now where I have so many that I forget about the things that I've made. I try now, anytime I make something that I crochet, at least, to take a picture of it and post it on. I have a tiny little, I have a crochet account on Instagram, and I try to catalog everything that I make, which is not a whole lot, especially since I started cataloging it somewhat recently. But still, I'm happy that I'm gonna have it all in one place, so I don't forget all of the things that I've made. We found a knot. Oop, a slip stitch. What was he making? Really not doing a good job with this white yarn right now. Pleek. What else can I talk about? Okay, well, thank you for asking. I just got off work an hour ago at this point. And I was going to go to the gym after work. That's one of my hobbies. That sounds like a really, annoying thing to say, that going to the gym is one of your hobbies. You know, like when someone's like, I don't know, like offhandedly boasting. I don't mean it like that. When I say I like to go to the gym as a hobby, I do it differently and in a more interesting way. Joke. But the roads were getting really bad, so I did not do that. And instead, I decided I'd come home, sit in silence for a little bit, and then film this video. And I think I made the right decision. This is so ridiculous. Like, truly, what was I thinking? What was I thinking when I bought all this yarn? And like I said, I don't even like the texture anymore. It's just, here's the thing also, I don't really like fluffy, woolly yarns like this. And this one, it's like if chenille was bigger and worse. I already don't like chenille yarn. There's a blob of chenille yarn down there that also needs to be wound up and used for literally anything. This gray ball is going to be crazy. Work was fine today at unnamed coffee job. I do really love it. I love to drink coffee. I've mentioned this before in my first video. But I also really like, what I like about working in a coffee shop is I'm a yapper. I talk and I talk. And when I find someone that I like talking to, we're talking for a while. And so I love talking with random people and, making their day just a little bit brighter by, making them a fun little drink or giving them a little bit of caffeine. It's just a charming little job. Okay, we're not almost there, but we're getting closer. This is going a lot faster than I thought it would, to be completely honest. Water break. I still have to take apart this entire blanket. I think it's already partially taken apart, but I feel my back getting sore just looking at it from pulling the stitches apart. I am currently working on a couple of small crochet projects, since that's the subject of the day. One of which I think is going to be a blanket for my partner. Who knows if he'll like it or not, but I don't give a gaff. Because if he doesn't like it, I'll keep it. I like the yarn that I got for it. I did end up buying yarn. I had a moment of weakness the other day and I saw this yarn that I've only seen online. And I thought I would have to buy online if I ever wanted it. And it's this, slow transition ombre. And I thought it would look really cool as a blanket. Just because I think that slow transition ombre, not hard transitions, it's so gradual. It looks awesome. So I was like, I'm gonna make a blanket with that. I don't know. I just wanted to see it. So maybe he'll like it. I don't know. He's not crazy about crochet, which is funny because I do it a lot. The other thing I'm working on, well, I'm kind of working on two things. The other thing I'm working on is another bag, kind of in the same like family of shape of that one I showed earlier, the Christmas colored one. But I'm using this yarn that I had laying around that I don't even know why I bought this yarn, but I did. It's the kind of yarn that you're supposed to crochet into like something you scrub dishes with. Like it's meant to be abrasive and like, I don't know, clean. But I was like, I'm not going to use it for that. And so the idea, I was just like, I'm going to use that and make a bag with it. And it has all these like flyaway bits on it. And it kind of looks cool. It kind of looks cool. Like a fuzzy bag. So that's kind of fun. I'll show that off whenever I get it done. If you guys are interested, I'll link my crochet account in the description. If anyone wants to see the few things I've made. I'm not like amazing, but it is something I like to do. But yeah, so another little bag. I've been making a bunch of little bags in that same shape. Just, it's been pleasing to make, and like, I don't have to think about it when I make them. And maybe I can eventually like give them away as gifts. Then the other thing I'm making, I've made a couple of crochet wearables before. And they kind of turn out okay. Like in varying effects. Like it really depends. Oh, did I get the end of this? Oh, Neptune. Okay, there we go. And some of them are okay, some of them are atrocious. A like ongoing joke or discourse that goes on in the fiber arts community is like that crochet wearables look like trash. Or they just look bad. And people who do like knit are like, knit always looks better as wearables. And I don't think that's necessarily true. And I don't just say that because I only crochet. But I think if you're expecting them to look like knit, they're probably not going to. They're going to look like crochet. This is really frustrating. This like triangle I made. I don't know why I made that. What was I making? But I have a couple of crochet wearables. I think some of them are okay. Others of them are like, like whatever. One of them is really, really like not good. It's poo-poo bad. But I'm still holding on to it because one, frogging it would be a nightmare. And two, what if I ever need it? What if I ever, it looks ridiculous. I'll show you sometime. It's not on my, well, it might be on my Instagram. I couldn't tell you. I might not have put it on just because I'm like ashamed of it now. We're getting a lot closer. We're getting a lot closer. I am really thankful to have a craft like this in my life, though. I think I've always been kind of a crafty person, and I like to learn new hobbies. And this one's really like stuck with me really well. Like longer than other hobbies have. I think it's given me a creative outlet in a time that like I really needed it in my life. It's when I started crocheting. Oh gosh. And I'm still doing it. Ideally, I will use all of the yarn that I have, though, before I start any new projects. Oh, I didn't even tell you the third thing that I was kind of working on because I keep forgetting about it myself. But I'm trying to make a wearable of some sort that maybe I can wear in the summertime. It might be a cardigan. It might be like, I don't know, just something like a top of some sort. I'm not really sure yet. It's honestly just wishful thinking at this point. Yeah, I have a crochet sweater that I made that I'm pretty proud of. Another one that I'm proud of technically, but it looks a little frumpy in practice, and I'm too lazy to go back and like fix it because it's already made. So maybe I'll give it away to somebody eventually who likes it more, or maybe that it looks better on. But I have to think about it, and like when you make something and then you look back at it and you're like, that could have been better. Like that's literally just what growing is. Like you just have to accept that you tried and you did, and look at the thing that you made and decide how you're going to go forward from there. Crochet is fun in that way because it's very visual, in that you can kind of pick up what you did wrong and improve on it later if you want. But it's also a little bit unforgiving because say you are making a project and in like the first 3 rows you make a mistake, and then you get like 40 rows in, and then you notice that mistake you made in the first like 5 rows. You either have to live with it being there, or you could frog all of that and go all the way back to fix it. At that point, I don't know if I would have the personal like strength to go back and frog something that much. Just because that would take so much time. Oh my gosh. Please. Okay, another ball. I see another end. What's something else I like to do in my free time? Well, okay. Thank you for asking. Something I'm doing in my free time is I'm in a ballet class, and I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. And as I've said, one of my hobbies is going to the gym. So I like being active. I like fitness. It just makes me feel good. I'm not in it for like a visual thing, because I don't think thinking about it that way is good for me. But I like moving my body and trying new things. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a ballet class. Now, I've done some music in my time and some theater a little bit. I'm trying to do more still. But I was like, I've never been a dancer, and anytime I've been in a show, the thing that I am worst at is dancing. I'm not very good at dancing. I'm barely a mover. I'm just not super coordinated in that way. And so I've been taking dance classes here and there. They're very unserious dance classes. And they're beginner friendly, thank goodness, because I am a beginner in many ways. In every way, actually. But it's been a lot of fun. But specifically in reference to ballet, ballet is really hard. You know that like trope that they say like they get sports ball players to like do ballet every once in a while to like strength training or something? That is no joke, because it's hard, and I leave those classes sore and I'm sore today. I had it yesterday. And as much fun as it's been, I'm thankful that I only have one more class because I don't know if my body can take it anymore. It's been hard. It's been really hard. In a fun way. But I am sadly quite bad at it. And I was kind of hoping I'd be okay at ballet because I'm kind of lanky. But no, the amount of strength that type of dance takes, it really is brutal for me. So I've been doing that. I've been doing ballet. I mentioned in my first video that I'm in a play in my town. And I'm really excited for that. It's been, I was in grade school the first time I did something that was even roughly equivalent to a play. I've been in a few, in college, I was in a few operas, and a little bit after college, and a couple of music theater shows, musical theater. So, I'm not unaccustomed to, performing and delivering lines, but, having something that is focused specifically on lines, and only lines, no music. It's totally different. This is a really stubborn piece. And it's frustrating me. But it's been a lot of fun, kind of finding the nuance in just spoken word. Obviously, there's a lot to glean from just any sentence when you're trying to interpret it kind of in an acting sense. I'm saying all of this like I know a lot about acting, and I truly, well and truly, I don't. Which is why I'm doing this play, because I want to kind of be better about that. Brother, what is going on? Oh, I found an end. This might be the end of this ball that I'm working on. Yes. Okay. I thought we were really not gonna get to the end. Oh goodness. This is a lot of yarn. Okay, keep going. Water break. I hope my phone doesn't die. Because if it does, the mic dies and this is over. If anyone has ideas of what I could make, what I could use this yarn to make, please tell me. I'd love to hear. I know there's a lot that I could make, and I could make something pretty substantial with this. But here's the thing. I say give me ideas, but also here's the stipulation, is I dislike working with this yarn so much because it's not relaxing, in my opinion, to use this kind of yarn because it's so big. It's a very physical activity. And I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just lazy. But I'm I get tired using this yarn. I'm why am I sweating? Why am I sweating crocheting with this yarn? So an idea I had, because I have so much of this yarn, I was what if I make myself a beanbag chair? Wouldn't that be cool? And conceptually, I love the idea of that, especially if I just kind of randomly use these different colors. Make it kind of look patchworky and scrappy. That could be fun. But also, I'd have to spend so much time doing that. I know fiber fiber people in my comments are probably going to say, well, it shouldn't take that long because the yarn's so big. And like, yeah, true. But this texture, it like grips to itself. And like I said, I'm lazy. So it just feels like it takes just as long. And then whenever I'm like freehanding it to try to make something, and I'm like, this is not turning into the right shape. It's just because the weight and the way the yarn acts is so different from like regular yarn. I don't know, maybe I'll get over myself and I'll just make something with it. Anyways, I'm so sorry if this is not pleasing to listen to or interesting. But if you stuck around this long, thanks. I feel like I'm running out of things to talk about, and that's because I am. So, I've been trying to find more shows to watch. And for whatever reason, recently I was possessed of a feeling that I needed to rewatch Bakugan Battle Brawlers, of all things. And I have been watching it. It's not a very good show. So, as a kid, I was the youngest boy and the only boy. And my personal interest was toys. I love toys. And I hate to say it, but I was a bit of a spoiled child. And one of those toys that I really liked, one of those brands, was Bakugan. I loved Bakugan. And I used to have so many. I would say about at least 6 months ago, though, I sold my entire collection for very cheap. Like on Facebook Marketplace. And when I tell you, it was a lot of Bakugan. But I was like, I just need to I'm in a much different place in my life where I don't think I'm as collector-minded with certain things that I don't interact with. So like, I had these Bakugan sitting in a closet for years, just collecting dust and not being appreciated. And I hate that. I hate that, that I just had something that maybe was not being appreciated as much as I feel like it could be. And I know they're just like discontinued toys, vintage toys at this point. But I was like, I feel like there's someone in the world, either a kid or a grown-up, that collects, that would just appreciate these a lot more. And so I was like, going to Facebook Marketplace, to the highest bidder. I did not charge a whole lot for it. I forget how much. It might have been like $100 or $150 for... It was definitely over 200 Bakugan. Like, I counted. Like, and that's not even counting extra pieces of like gear, quote unquote. Sorry, this is really nerdy, but this all came up because for whatever reason, I was like, I need to rewatch Bakugan. And as I've said, not a very good show. It's just like how all of those shows that were based on a toy, toys that are based on shows that are based on toys, so that they can sell you more toys through the show. It's insidious. And I was so into it as a kid. But yeah, I've been watching that. I need to find another show to watch. Recently I've watched, on Netflix specifically, Dan Da Dan. That's a pretty fun anime. Has some weird parts, but it's anime. I don't mean weird like as in like, oh, like there was something freaky happening, like there was a monster. No, I mean like weird, like sexualization of peoples that are not of proper age. But unfortunately, that's like par for the course in anime. So, grain of salt. Dandadan is good, but there's a little bit of that. The other show that I watched, that was also, I don't even know if it's considered an anime, but Pantheon, which is also on Netflix, I thought was very cool. It's about uploaded intelligence, UI. So obviously, like, everyone knows what AI is, but UI would be like if you took my brain and stuck that thing in a USB and then hooked me up to the computer. And the implications of uploaded intelligence in the real world, it's a bit dramatic in the way that I think it makes it such a big deal, but I do think it's a fun show. Dandadan, I'm realizing I didn't tell you what it was about. Dandadan is about the collision of the spiritual world and like the sci-fi world, specifically in Japan. And it's pretty fun. It's like, it's cool, but it's also funny. Whereas Pantheon's very like, it's generally very serious, I would say. Pantheon feels a little bit more like how maybe later seasons of Invincible feel. And I don't really know what to compare Dandadan to. I honestly don't watch a whole lot of anime. But those are all things that I've been watching recently. I also recently started rewatching The Walking Dead. Another like show from the past that I don't know why I like decided to pick up again. And it holds up pretty well. I kind of have dropped off with it again. About at the same point where I dropped off with it originally when I watched it all those years ago. And the part that I dropped off at is like a little bit, well, it's in the jail arc. That's all I'll say, so I don't spoil anything for anyone. Also, it's been so many years, so if you're getting spoiled, like, I don't know what to tell you. And then I started halfway watching Fear the Walking Dead, which is like, starts really slow, but for some reason I was like really needing zombie content, I guess. I really like the perspective change in Fear the Walking Dead. So originally The Walking Dead is specifically from like the worldview of the American like Eastern South area. You know, like everyone has a southern accent, like Herschel. But Fear the Walking Dead takes place primarily on the West Coast, at least in the part of the show that I'm in. And so people's perspective on things are a little different, and the characters are totally different as well. And without spoiling anything, what I will say is I really liked the comparison made between, well, it's not a direct comparison, that's not the precise thing to say. Maybe it's more like a metaphor. Meme is using literary terms right now. It's more like a metaphor, the way one of the characters is a drug addict, and the way that addiction and the way that people of mirrored metaphorically in the dead, the walkers. And interestingly, it kind of shows you how the virus, the wildfire virus is what it's called in the Walking Dead universe, I believe, spread quicker and primarily at first among unhoused people and people who are generally in unsafe situations, like people who do illicit drugs. I hope talking about this doesn't get me flagged. I feel like it might. Whoopsie. Okay, I'm gonna crash out. That's all the gray yarn? This is great. That was my knee. See, this is why I shouldn't be doing ballet. I'm falling apart. That was also a bad idea. Hit my mic cord. This is a lot. Okay, I'm gonna show it. Lift it up and show it to you. Whoops. So it used to be bigger, I'm pretty sure. But this is what we are taking apart. The way I keep breathing. Because I don't want to do this. Not because I feel bad about taking it apart, because I'm lazy. Okay, this is going to be annoying. Like I said, the other thing about this yarn is it clings to itself. And so, frogging it, if you do something that you don't like and you have to go back and frog, it's so frustrating to frog. I guess I should also say, for those who don't know anything about fiber arts, is generally whenever you're taking something apart, stitch by stitch, it's called frogging. I don't know if there's a technical term that's equivalent to frogging, or if this is just a colloquial thing. But I feel like everyone calls it frogging. Which is such a fun word. Why frogging? Oh god, I see more yarn under my bed. That's big yarn. It's just a little bit. But I'm going to have to grab that for the sake of being thorough. I don't want to halfway do the job. Okay. I had to use the little crocheter's room. Now I'm back and it's time to lock in. Because we're getting this done. This is a lot of progress. You guys, this has been under my bed for so long. So long. Okay, so those are the shows I've been watching. The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead. I feel like I've watched something recently too. Oh my gosh, I've been watching Smiling Friends. Which is really funny. I don't know what to compare it to. It feels like when you were a kid and you would stay up and watch Adult Swim. I mean, it is literally an Adult Swim show, actually, now that I think about it. It's in the advertising, but I think it's so funny. It's dumb and hilarious. And I think I've watched it 3 times at this point, because there's not a whole lot of it and the episodes are short. Is not appropriate, by the way, if you're taking recommendations right now. That is not an appropriate show, but it's very funny. Something that's also really funny to me is Kunk on Earth. Philomena Kunk in general is just such a card. I forget the name of the comedian that plays her. Because Philomena Kunk is a character. I hate to break it to you, but she's just a character, not a real person. But there's a couple of Netflix specials, and I think some BBC specials that she's in. Her whole thing is like being a mockumentary host. I think it's technically mockumentary. And she's pretending to be a documentary host. Me describing what a mockumentary is. And she's like, I don't even know what her accent is. Maybe it's Welsh. Is it Scouse? It's not Scouse. What was I talking about? I watched Smiling Friends. I have not watched many movies recently. I think the most recent movie that I've watched was Nosferatu, which I really enjoyed. I thought it was good. I like Robert Eggers films. Was it a little wild? Well, yes. Yes, it was. Because Nosferatu was busting it down, sexual style. And I thought it was a ball. I thought it was fun. In a very sick way. I loved all the TikToks about it. Very, very funny. I can do a pretty spot on Nosferatu impression. But I think I will save that for another time. Because a Nosferatu right now, during the ASMR video, seems wrong. I changed my mind. You must bounce on it. Crazy style. I'm so sorry. So that's my Nosferatu impression. I had to sit in silence with myself after that for a minute. Okay, and also, I'm getting frustrated because I wove these ends so in such a way. I'm getting frustrated. What did I do? How did I do this? That's the other thing about starting a craft like this and learning as you go, which I think learning as you go is great until you go back to look at what you did and you're like, how did I do that? How did I do that in such a way? Oh, I found it. Freak yeah. I was about to crash out over that. I also watched Wicked when it came out in theaters. I and most of the world went to see Wicked and enjoyed it, of course. I just thought it was lovely. I've seen Wicked only one other time in my life. The live stage version, I should say. And it was a long, long time ago on the West End, which is in London. Yeah, it's in London. But it was so long ago, and at the time, I didn't really care about music theater. I really liked music, but in retrospect now, I'm like, oh my god, I saw Wicked on the West End, and it was wonderful. I remember it being great. But at the time, I was like, I didn't care. I didn't care as much. looking back on it now, I'm like, dang, I should have saved the playbill. I should have, like, remembered who the Elphaba was and the Glinda, but I don't. It's lost to time. Well, actually, never mind. If anyone in watching this, if you're listening and you also know lots of facts about Wicked the musical, who was playing Elphaba and Glinda? Who was the cast in the West End production in June or July of 2017? Do you know? And if you do, sound off. Because I've been burning to know the answer. But Wicked the movie, the musical, the movie, part 1, amazing. It was just a ride. And the great thing about it, I mean, there's lots of great things about it, but what I really liked is that it didn't feel like it was trying to be anything but a musical. You know, like how we kind of saw with the Mean Girls, the musical, the movie, is it kind of felt like it was trying to hide the fact that it was a musical. And with musicals, they're so ridiculous and they're so over the top that you have to lean into the fact that there can't be. Because that's what musicals are. They're over the top, the suspension of disbelief. The suspension of disbelief is totally different. I thought it was lovely. Obviously, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande had such a chemistry on the screen, and their voices just sounded great together. My first knowing exposure to Cynthia Erivo was listening to her Broadway cast recording of The Color Purple, which is amazing. When I think of The Color Purple, I think of Cynthia Erivo. And I saw her in an interview. This is me giving my pop culture moment. I saw her give an interview, and she's so interesting to listen to in interviews. She explains things in such a way, in such an artistic way, that I like. It's magnetic. Someone asked her, like, in passing, they were like, Cynthia, would you ever consider, like, playing Elphaba on Broadway? And her answer was, to paraphrase, something to the effect of, like, no, I think that would be greedy. Because she's like, she just gave her all for a screen adaptation that's gonna live forever. Or as long as somebody has it on Blu-ray. And she was like, I feel like I had my moment. And again, paraphrasing, she feels like there should be other people and other talent, newer talent, different talent, playing the roles. And that's kind of the point. And what's so beautiful about, like, live theater with these stories that is that you get to see that same material interpreted and performed in a different way by a different person every time. That's part of the magic, I think, of theater. But I just thought that answer was so amazing. I'm like, God, Cynthia Erivo, the woman you are, amazing. And listening to her, obviously, she's an amazing singer, but listening to her even, like, talk about singing and talk about expression, God, what a woman. What an artist. Gosh, I woven the ends again. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I loved Wicked. It's just great. I am running out of steam, of energy. Done. Okay, so I may have cheated a little bit, and I ran out of things to say, so I was like, you know what, we're going speed mode. But anyways, this is the last strand. It's not very long, but I figured I'd wind it and talk. The fruit of all our labor. Last ball. Well, after much labor, it is complete. It is done. This is a lot of yarn. And like I said, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I'm just going to count all the bunches, even if they're small. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. 40 things of yarn. Skeins. Roughly skeins of yarn. What should I do with it? What should I do with it? Anyways. Thank you. Thank you for listening along and watching and listening to me ramble while I organized my yarn. And please tell me what I should do with it. Okay. Peace out. Thanks for listening.